Who doesn't love dragons? Unless they're trying to eat you, of course, but if they're on your side, well, that's pretty awesome. Dragons and fantasy go hand in hand like salt and pepper. They're practically inseparable. You can find dragons in myths and legends that date back centuries, and they continue to capture our imaginations in modern fantasy. I can still remember the first time I saw a dragon on screen and was just blown away. Now, this was of course in the movie Dragonheart. The heartwarming story and ending had me sobbing my eyes out, and for decades I cherished that as the perfect ending for a nice little one-off story. But imagine my surprise when I discovered that there was not just one sequel, but another, and another, and another. So what's been going on here? Because some of these sequels are absolutely unhinged. So today I want to get to the bottom of it and explore the history of the incredible first movie, the highs and extreme lows of its sequels, and where everything is at in the current day to examine whatever happened to Dragonheart. Hi everyone, my name is Otto and welcome to Exits Examines. We'll be exploring franchises, series, and more after their prime time has seemingly come to an end. If that sounds good to you, there's a like and subscribe button below. The original Dragonheart holds a special place in many people's, well, hearts. It has action, friendship, adventure, and for the time, it had incredible and pioneering use of special effects and CGI. But this amazing movie very easily could have never existed. Dragonheart's journey began in 1988 with the vision of Patrick Reed Johnson and Charles Edward Pogue. The idea was simple. A dragon and knight would team up to con people, all wrapped in this overarching Arthurian myth. The script called for a ton of special effects that just weren't available at the time, so it languished for years and years, but that was not to be the end. When Jurassic Park was released, it changed everything, and the groundbreaking CGI dinosaurs proved that a realistic dragon might just be possible. Director Rob Cohen was brought on board and quickly made a few changes, like changing the setting to the Dark Ages rather than the original medieval setting. In fact, the film could have been vastly different in a number of ways, especially in regards to the actors, with the Terminator himself floated as a possible lead. But Dennis Quaid's portrayal of Bowen, the disillusioned knight, was absolutely the right call. Filming was done on location in Slovakia using real ruins from a 10th century castle. The production even contributed to the restoration of the castle, which you can still go to today if you're a superfan. So for those of you who haven't watched the movie in, let's say 20 years or more, Sir Bowen, a knight upholding the old code of honor, takes a young prince under his wing, teaching him the ways of chivalry. However, when the prince is fatally wounded, they seek the help of a dragon who offers a piece of his own heart to replace the dying prince's. Though his life is spared, he becomes a ruthless tyrant, leading Bowen to vow to slay all dragons, blaming the dragon for the cruelty. Years later, Bowen, now a seasoned dragon slayer, encounters Draco, a dragon and the last of his kind. Discovering their shared bond with the prince, Bowen and Draco forge an unlikely alliance to dethrone the evil king. The fate of the kingdom hangs in the balance as Bowen and Draco confront the corrupted king, ultimately leading to an absolutely heart-wrenching finale, which worked because Draco and Bowen had such good chemistry, which is really at the heart of the story. You know, as an aside, watching the movie again, it really struck me how similar it is both plot-wise and even aesthetically to The Witcher. I mean, even Bowen's outfit and the way he goes town to town slaying dragons. Just saying. Dragonheart became a decent box office success and even got an Academy Award nomination for its groundbreaking visual effects. While CGI is commonplace today, it's hard to overstate how much of a monumental feat this was in the 90s. For example, Jurassic Park featured less than 7 minutes of CGI dinosaurs, while Dragonheart showcased over 20 minutes of CGI dragon. Even creating Draco's face proved especially difficult, as he needed to be humanized and embody Sean Connery's personality, who, by the way, played Draco if you weren't already aware. To do this, the team meticulously studied countless close-up shots of Connery, cataloging every nuanced expression to create a reference point for how a Sean Connery dragon would realistically look. And it's a testament to how much heart the creators had for the film. There are very few times in Hollywood where you can make a commercial movie that has anything to say other than a thrill ride, let alone to have a lot of emotion and also things about ethical choices, morals, and to couch it all in the new world of special effects. And to be a pioneer in this new frontier, it was a gift. And those 2.5 years of my life, I am quite certain, will be among the most cherished. Dragonheart may not have been perfect, but it delivered a heartwarming story that felt like a satisfying standalone film, right? Well, not quite. This was amazingly enough just the beginning. The first Dragonheart wasn't exactly a box office smash, but it did go on to become popular on DVD, and this would lead to the first direct-to-DVD sequel, Dragonheart 2: A New Beginning in 2000. We're introduced to an orphan stable boy named Joff who dreams of becoming a knight. Joff discovers Drake, the world's last living dragon, and together they confront the villainous Lord to save their kingdom. Throw in some kung fu, cringe dialogue, and there you go, that's the movie. The sequel throws out a huge plot point from the original, Draco being the last dragon, which feels a bit jarring. Putting that aside, it's hard to find a better word for this film aside from meme. Its low budget is evident from the clunky dialogue to the unconvincing and funny CGI. We have to remember this was pretty much done on a TV budget, which is impressive in a way, even if it is at times unintentionally hilarious, which if that doesn't take you out of it, the random California accents definitely will. I find it difficult though to outright hate this movie. It's like a 4-year-old at a talent show. You know they're giving it their all, but they just don't quite understand the world yet. It's not their fault. I think if you watch this movie as a 10-year-old, it might actually be really fun. Am I glad this movie exists? In a way, yes. Would I watch it again? Only if I had a significant amount of alcohol in my system. A New Beginning was ironically not a beginning at all, but seemingly the end of the series, which is fair enough. Most people would have been fine if it had ended at the first movie. But somehow, this was still not the end, and Dragonheart was revived again in 2015 with the direct-to-video prequel Dragonheart 3: The Sorcerer's Curse, and it's a bit of a mixed bag. This prequel takes us further back in time than any previous installment to basically England after the fall of the Roman Empire. Basically, south of Hadrian's Wall is civilization and north is magic and Celts, which is very Game of Thrones, right? Anyway, it follows Gareth, an aspiring knight who stumbles upon Drago the dragon and an evil sorcerer's plot. Gareth assembles a ragtag team to save and unite the people across both sides of the wall. While there's barely any connection to the previous films, aside from the dragon, Dragonheart 3 is a notable improvement over A New Beginning. It takes itself more seriously and the plot and dialogue are, well, by no means incredible, but they're decent, with better special effects and character development. It has a surprisingly strong beginning and end, although it does lag a bit in the middle. The low budget is apparent, but the baddies here are deliciously evil and loving every second of it. Overall, it's a passable adventure. It may not be memorable, but it's a decent option. It doesn't reach the meme-worthy status of its predecessor, but it could have been much, much worse. And just like that, Dragonheart was back on, because just 2 years later, Battle for the Heartfire released in 2017 and continued the prequel trend, taking place 70 years after the Sorcerer's Curse. The story follows King Gareth's death, you know, the guy from the last movie, leaving his kingdom without a clear successor. Drago, voiced by Patrick Stewart, surprisingly is still alive and senses a connection with Edric, Gareth's grandson. Edric becomes a bit of an immature king, but immediately faces a challenge from his twin sister, who comes with Vikings to claim the throne. This sibling rivalry eventually unites them against a common foe. While some girl boss moments in here might feel forced, I think there was a real effort to give the characters personality, and it works. Like, they feel fun, and I did end up caring about them. The Viking elements in here are an enjoyable addition and kind of opens up the scale of the world. Though it's not perfect, it's better than it has any right to be. The decent acting, CGI, and entertaining action sequences make it fun, even if the story has kind of veered way away from the traditional Dragonheart themes and mythology. And these movies just keep on coming, with Vengeance released in 2020. This time, a farm boy seeks vengeance from his murdered family and teams up with a mysterious swordsman and female/vegetarian dragon. The story follows their pursuit of the four killers, uncovering their backstories along the way. Vengeance distinguishes itself with a more original storyline and improved CGI. It's a bit darker too, like I was shocked within the first 20 minutes a guy gets his hand chopped off. While not exceptional, it manages to be an entertaining adventure that evokes some of the original Dragonheart's charm, with the dragon Sivith really being reminiscent of the original Draco. The film's focus on character development and meaningful conversation is commendable, and I think these were the highlights of the film, at least for me. Even if the story and themes have seemingly strayed a bit far from the original, Vengeance might just be one of the best looking of the prequels. The dragons look believable, and the money saved on visual effects allows for more screen time of the dragon. It's definitely not going to win any Oscars, but it's a fun watch. The dragons look believable, and it has a happy, feel-good ending. Don't expect a blockbuster, but if you approach it as a lighthearted adventure, it's a good time. And I cannot believe I'm saying this, but this still is not the end. At least it looks that way. In 2023, it was announced that Liam Neeson was attached to another voice for a dragon in an upcoming Dragonheart reboot. Now, there has only been a little bit in the way of news to come out about this since last year, but apparently it's going to focus on a young knight forming an unlikely alliance with a dragon to battle ancient evil. And it has some pretty major actors attached to it, so we very well may just see this be the first movie in a while to come out of the direct-to-DVD curse of the previous movies. Right now, with the recent resurgence of Dungeons and Dragons and fantasy as a whole, it might just be a perfect time for it. But you may be shocked to find out that it's not just movies. Oh no, that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's also been a number of video games in the setting. Dragonheart Fire and Steel released in the 90s and was based on the first film. It's a side-scroller where we control Boeing, and it's a bit of a mixed bag. On the plus side, for the time, the graphics and backgrounds were really excellent looking, but the controls are extremely clunky, and this is not helped by the use of a stamina bar, which, who knows, maybe this is where Dark Souls got it. But anyway, after a few swings of your sword, Bowen just kind of sits there and struggles to get up. And as a whole, it got some pretty negative reviews due to controls and repetitive gameplay. If that's not enough for you, there's also a Game Boy game published by Acclaim in 1996 that was also loosely based on the first film. But this one is a first-person adventure, and actually looks really great considering it's on the Game Boy. The portraits in particular look amazing, and combat is 2D where you fight humans and dragons alike, and the gameplay loop is basically explore, quest, and combat. Overall, not so shabby for a Game Boy game. On the more obscure side of things for younger audiences, there's Dragonheart Medieval Creativity Center, which is an educational game and includes activities like puzzles and other mini-games. Apparently, the story is that Bowen organized trials to train young knights and teach them wisdom and honor, and we're playing as one of these knights. But take this with a grain of salt, because I could find next to nothing about this, and the only Let's Play video I found was on a Russian channel, so if anyone has played this, I'd love to hear more. So with the wealth of movies, you'd think there'd be more video games out here, because fighting dragons and flying on dragons is a great base for a game, but there's not that much out there. But writing this, I realized we do kind of have a Dragonheart game in the form of Dragon's Dogma, which the plot with a very similar plot to Dragonheart. If that's not enough for you, there was also 2 comic book issues released around the time of the original movie, which loosely follow its events, and it's fascinating to see the story converted into a comic book form. Speaking of books, there was also a novelization in 1996 of the original film, but not to be confused with Dragonheart from Dragon Riders of Pern series. The Dragonheart novelization was written by the screenwriter and had many differences from the film and reveals a lot about the backstory. So for example, Brock, the evil knight from the first film, and Bowen hated each other, and this stemmed from a duel between the two that would decide which one of them would be the prince's mentor. It also reveals the entire Old Code showed instead of only the middle portion heard in the film. So that just about covers all things Dragonheart. So whatever happened to it? Shockingly, it never went away. For better or worse, Dragonheart spawned several sequels with varying degrees of success. While A New Beginning and The Sorcerer's Curse faced heavy criticism, for good reason, later sequels have showed some improvement in both production and storytelling. Despite their flaws, these films still managed to maintain a loyal fan base, and as another upcoming reboot looms, we can only hope for a return to the heartfelt magic that made the original film a beloved classic, and to remind us why we fell in love with Dragonheart in the first place. Or at the very least, another meme movie wouldn't be so bad. Thanks so much for watching. I really appreciate all the support from you guys. And in particular, a huge shout out to my patrons. You guys are the best. If you want to learn about more ways to support this channel, you can check out my Patreon link below. And if you ever have any suggestions about what you want me to cover next, feel free to drop a comment. I'm always really interested to hear what you have to say. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Bye.